Hey church, and welcome to our third and final devotional video on 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, which says, "For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of self-control." Today we're going to be looking at how self-control is one of the best tools that God gives us in overcoming fear. Self-control in and of itself is a concept many of us are probably familiar with. It is the physical or mental capacity to achieve a goal without getting knocked off course. So, for example, a situation I'm sure most, if not all of us have been in, is when we're in school or college or university and we have homework or an essay to do, and we know the end goal is to achieve our qualification, be that GCSE, A-level or degree. And we know when we start that there will be times when we find it easy and we're enjoying a class and we don't mind writing certain essays, but then there are times when we know it'll be hard, when it'll be boring, and when we just sit down and write these things that we really don't want to write, and it's going to take us hours and it's going to take a lot of research and it's going to be very difficult. But we know that in order to achieve the end goal, we have to be self-controlled enough to sit down, to study and to write. As I'm sure many of you found out, when we get to that point where we're using our homework and we're trying to write it and it gets really boring and really difficult, we get to that point, don't we, where anything and everything can distract us. That is obviously a lack of self-control. Whereas the person who sits down and just smashes it out and thinks, as boring as this could be, I'm just going to get it over and done with and I'm going to get on and I'm going to get my qualification, that would show a distinct amount of self-control. And it's this excellent tool for combating fear, because fear is like that boring essay that gets in the way of getting to the end goal. Except this time round, the end goal is something much bigger and much grander. God has put us on a path with a beginning and with an end. And the end goal is to bring God glory in everything that we do. We're going to get to the end, and I just want to hear God say, "Well done, good and faithful servant, enter into your Father's happiness." And the enemy has many tools he can use to try and put in the way of us walking down this path that God has set us on. Tools that will try and turn us to the right or to the left, or just to stop us in our tracks. And as we've already discussed, fear is one of those chief tactics he uses to stop us. But self-control says, no, I'm going to push on through even when I'm fearful, even when it's hard, even when it's boring. I'm going to push on through because I know that the end goal, the end result is worth it. Now, as I'm sure many of us have figured out by doing homework, self-control is something that's incredibly difficult to have in and of ourselves. But the great news is that it is a gift of the Spirit. It is something that has to be given by God in order for us to walk on this life that He calls us to. It is something that can be spiritually given just as love and joy and peace are. Self-control is exactly the same. It is the best and simplest tool we can use to overcome fear, because when we're in that situation where we're finally evangelizing to our friend who we've been praying for so long, when fear comes to try and stop us, our self-control says, no, I'm in control, fear isn't. God is in control, fear isn't. I'm going to fulfill what God has called me to do because I have the self-control to say no to fear. There are many areas in our lives I'm sure lots of us need self-control in. I need plenty more myself. But I would make it a habit to actually pray for it. How often do I find myself praying for power and love compared to how often I pray for self-control? And yet, it is the simplest and easiest way of combating so many of life's problems, is to just put your head down and get through it. Why don't you ask God today where you can pray for self-control in your life? Which areas of your life could you use more self-control in? And you watch what God does, because it's in the small things, it's in the little things that God will move. And It might not be shouty, it might not be power, it might not be this amazing act of love, but it is the way that God has called us to a humble life of self-control. It might go unnoticed, but it will not go unnoticed to God. He will get so much glory out of us when we say, yes, God, please give me the self-control to fulfill what you want me to fulfill. I'll see you soon.